Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Patch 8.1 is on the horizon, BlizzCon is almost upon us, and with it pretty much being confirmed that 8.1 won't be talked about much during the con, it seems like it's going to drop just after BlizzCon closes, either maybe that week or the following one, I'd imagine. So this patch brings a fair few changes that I think impact how you would want to play World of Warcraft right now. Basically, it's not really worth chasing some of the endgame progression rewards unless you're using them for raiding. Your best bet is to do some other things, but before I cover what those other things are, let's talk about the progression stuff. There's the topic of efficiency, but also that of design. Blizzard have just announced that they are adding a new Azeroth currency into patch 8.1. You'll get this currency from your weekly Mythic Plus chest with higher keystones, giving you significantly more at the end of the week. You then have random tokens for each slot at 355, 370, and 385, all priced accordingly, and you will be able to buy specific bits of gear that are going to be very expensive, but that offers you a surefire way to get specific bits of gear. Now, on top of this, you'll be able to put 8.1 Azeroth gear into the scrapper. That's really big. It means that Azeroth gear itself is a bit of a currency now, meaning that, as an example, your Emissary Cash 370s can be scrapped into this new currency if you don't want them. And essentially, I think this is a far better gearing system. It means that the chances of your time being wasted by a bad roll pretty much go all the way down to nil. I think it's going to be a much more fun version of the end game of Battle for Azeroth, or at least one that will be a good bit more satisfying. And that means that, while we're waiting for this better version to come, I don't really recommend that you go too deep into the current gearing, because it is going to be a lot better quite soon. Once 8.1 comes out, you're going to find yourself with more ways to get gear and more ways to get AP. So 5 hours spent gearing right now won't be as efficient as that time spent once 8.1 drops. And here's why. So faction incursions are going to give you a pretty constant source of 370 Azeroth gear and weapons. Now they scale like the Emissary caches, meaning that for most players they will of course be around 370. The Azeroth is fixed at that, but the weapons can warforge up a little bit. You will then have a second warfront with Darkshore, and that's going to run parallel to Stromgarde. Now this gives you access to double the warfront related rewards per month. Of course, the warfront rewards are not based on weekly lockout, they're based on the warfront cycle. So if there's two warfronts in the game, you'll have two 370 chests and two sets of turn-in quests and world bosses and world quests to shoot for. So even before the new raid comes out, this patch is going to give you an extra, one 370, from the warfront sources. You'll get 1 to 2 370s per week from the faction incursions as well. So if you are a casual player, I probably wouldn't focus on gearing up that much until 8.1 drops, and that's perfectly fine because it means you're free to pursue other in-game rewards. As for artifact power, well, this one's really interesting because doing 8 of the contribution quests for the warfronts, that takes 1 trip to the auction house, and in my server at least, and in most, it's pretty cheap. That's like 4,000 artifact power for 5 minutes of work. Now that's the equivalent of doing 1 hour of island expeditions, assuming that's including your weekly 2,500 bonus. Basically, each one of those hand-ins is worth 2 expeditions or 2 to 3 world quests. It's insanely time efficient, and with a second warfront entering the game, you'll get 2 of those per month. That's an extra 8,000 Azeroth per month that will probably take you a total of 10 minutes to earn, which is pretty mad. You also need to remember how catch-up works. So if in a given month you have 5 hours to dedicate to Azeroth farming, you would be best spending those 5 hours towards the end of the month, because the Azeroth requirements for AP, I think it falls about 33% a week because of the built-in catch-up system. So sure, right now I could be 1 or 2 AP levels higher, but I just logged on like 2 days ago. I did 5 islands, did my warfront turn-ins, got like 1.5 Heart of Azeroth levels in barely any time. Now 2 weeks ago, that would have taken me like multiple map clears, and not worth it in terms of time. So basically what I'm saying is 8.1 is going to bring you more AP, and it's going to bring you loads of catch-up stuff. So all of what I've covered here basically just means that AP is going to be pretty fast and efficient to earn, and you shouldn't really feel too obligated to do more than the bare minimum right now if you don't want to, and that means that you're free to focus on other goals, more meaningful ones, such as the next one, which is character leveling. You'll want to focus on leveling any alts that you really want to use up to level 110, and then, ideally you want to do that for multiple. Why? Well, the incursions of patch 8.1 can be done by leveling characters. Now this works, it's similarly strong to say the Legion Invasion leveling of 7.2, and it makes them a great tool for people who want to try out alts. So incursions are not active all the time. Indeed, we're not exactly sure what the final schedule is going to be, but if it's anything like the Legion Invasions, they'll be a great way to, level, and it'll be a few per week. Now the ideal way to do this is to batch your characters through them, so when an incursion appears, you want to run all your alts through it. That should be, the fastest sort of XP gain way to to do that. Another really nice thing about the incursions actually is that their spawning is a lot more dense, which I covered in a recent video, and that means that it cuts down on the travel time and stuff like that quite a bit. Now, Blizzard are also planning to add a bind on account flight path book in 8.1, so your main will be able to mail that to your other characters to unlock flight points, which will make it a good bit easier to get around the continents. And yeah, just remembering the alt friendliness mechanics is important because Blizzard are making a number of changes aimed at making multiple alts be easier, so it's worth knowing what they are so that you don't waste your time doing duplicate tasks that you'll get for free now. So first, the Heart of Azeroth item level increase from the Champions of Azeroth faction is going to be made practically account-wide. This means that there's really not much point in farming up that rep on your alts now unless you really need it now, because it's pretty much going to be available to your alts for free once 8.1 drops. And this next one falls into the same category. The War Campaign chapters are going to give you a large amount of reputation in 8.1, so it's probably not worth doing them in alts now, and that would cause you to miss out on the free rep, and it would mean that you'd have to farm up world quests if you want to do the War Campaign, which you probably, maybe don't want to do all those world quests on an alt. So, you're probably wondering, right, I've saved all this time by not doing these things, what do I do? Because I'm aware most of this video has just been saying, don't play WoW right now that much because your time is kind of wasted in comparison to doing things once 8.1 drops. Now, before I talk about this stuff more broadly, there are just some specific things that I think you can do. So first, get exalted with Silvermoon and Ironforge. The new Heritage armor in this patch looks absolutely wonderful, and you'll need those. Then also take a look at these dates that Blizzard posted. These show the Island Expedition enemy themes for the next while, so if there's a specific island reward that you want to get, then know that that reward is based off the enemy type that is associated with the island and how many of that enemy did you kill on a given island. So if you really want the Twilight Avenger, then you'd best get busy during the Black Dragon week. What you can do now is you can focus on things that are more beneficial, things that will, be long-standing rewards that can impact how you enjoy the game. It's really easy to feel glued to your main character and sort of stuck inside the progression, slot machine, meat grinder that Blizzard have kind of made. Well, instead of doing that, what you can do is do some things to change up gameplay, because many of us have been playing mains for a very, very long time, and, to the point where they don't present a challenge, they don't really feel new, we don't feel like we're progressing our skills as players. Well, I think what you should probably try doing is working on playing something completely different. Playing a new class is a great first step, especially if you make it something that's really different from what you know, so that it feels different to play the game. So if you play a mage, maybe try a monk. If you play a monk, I don't know, maybe play a mage. Like the Battle for Azeroth revamped Demonology Warlock's pretty fun, and the new Survival Hunter is really great too, so it's probably worth checking those out. Basically, if you feel really bored of WoW, it might be because, from launch of this expansion, you'd be doing your weekly expedition, your weekly Mythic Plus, all your daily emissaries, all in the same character and spec. And that's a bit much. No wonder it would feel stale. The best thing I'd say you can do in WoW, if you still want to play it, is to shake things up. Now, look, I love my monk, but for me, this has all meant that I've been investing my time in the arena. Often these videos, it's weird. Videos like this that I normally do are about prepping your character for a patch, but that's kind of pointless because of how the game is right now. There's really not that much to prepare for, but instead it's about preparing yourself, because some of the changes you can make now can really increase your enjoyment in the future and, push you out of your comfort zone and make it feel new. Now, for me, Arena just feels like a different game. Tanking and healing feel like different games to DPS. You might think you don't want to try those things, but sometimes that's just in your head. So, if you decide to change things up, then I'd recommend doing that in the next while, instead of just doing world quest after world quests. For an example, getting used to PvP, then, creating arena macros and updating my UI to be more suited for the arena. Same goes for the tanks and the healers. Right now, WoW just encourages you to keep on playing the same character, and, sometimes I think that makes people feel like they can't experiment, and certainly the game does itself no favors sometimes, but yeah, this video exists to say that you can, and that will be a pretty fun way to prepare for patch 8.1 if you're kind of interested in taking a second shot at the game, when 8.1 comes out. But of course, we'll have to see what happens at BlizzCon, because, well, I think we'll just have a better grip of the future and what we want to accomplish with WoW once we know what 8.2 is, and once we actually hear the devs talk about the, the future sort of the game. But there you go. That's how I would recommend preparing for patch 8.1. There is not a massive amount of stuff to do, to farm, to grind, like there may have been for some early patches. This time, it's less about prepping your character, it's more about prepping yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.